Hello, beautiful people. My name is Jacob Burlingame of freedomforlifeproject.com, and today we are going to be talking about being a principled human being. Something a lot of people lack in today's world, and we'll talk about why that is in a little bit. But first, let's start with principles. What are principles? Principles are the things that come first. They are your philosophies of life, your understandings of life, truths that you have identified and attempt to align your behavior with. Why are principles so important? Well, they're important because it's very easy to get lost in the weeds of life, to become confused when you do not first have a principle to then filter your actions through. You always need that thing to then look at this individual situation you're dealing with and then say, okay, does this behavior align with my principles? And today I'm going to be specifically talking about the principle of morality, the principle of natural law, understanding what you do and do not have the right to do. Because if you do not have that principles firmly in place, you are the dream. That is what the sorcerer wants. The sorcerers, they want you to be in a constant state of confusion, because if you're confused, you can be manipulated. And this is what we see with typical mind-controlled status. They get lost in the weeds, they become confused, and then even if they do hold a moral principle within, they will struggle to enforce that in reality because they're tricked, they're bamboozled into supporting immoral action. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Now, given what I just told you, that should sound great, because if you have a principle of morality, all right, which let's quickly talk about that. Morality can be understood. You can see how it affects the real world, negatively or positively. Moral law, natural law, it is simple, but it is profound, it is powerful, and it is, I do not have the right, the non-aggression principle. I do not have the right to steal or inflict violence upon another. And then you have the self-defense principle, which I can use force to defend myself when another comes and steals and tries to violate my rights. Which I'm really glad Mark Passio emphasized that a lot, because the difference between force and violence is very big. And I just want to emphasize that because just understand, when I use the word violence, I am saying unwarranted aggression. And when I use the word force, I am talking about putting down unwarranted aggression. If you still don't understand what I mean, quick example. You walk up to a guy you've never met before, don't even know his name, and you punch him in the face. That was violence. It was totally unwarranted. You don't even know the guy. He has done nothing to wrong you. Now, say a guy walks up to you, punches you in the face, grabs your phone out of your hand and starts running away. You chase him down, grab your phone back, punch him in the face. That was not violence. That was force. That person came and violated your rights, and you used force to bring reality back into harmony, to reacquire your possession, your property, which I need to make a whole other video dedicated to natural law, morality, how all rights are property rights, how all forms of violence and violations are forms of theft. So we'll talk about that in another video, but for today, it's just simple to understand those two ideas of non-aggression and self-defense. And that is a moral principle that I understand. And understanding that, I now have complete control over taking an immoral or moral action. And that sounds great, because now you are no longer confused. But why would a lot of people be very disturbed with what I just said? Well, it's because, as I was talking about in the last video of responsibility, people don't want responsibility. And what having a moral principle and an understanding such as what I just explained, it means that you are ultimately responsible for whether actions you take in the world are moral or immoral, and a lot of people are terrified of that. So a lot of people wish to remain in ignorance, remain in confusion, because as long as you remain in those states, you can kind of try, in reality you can't, but you try to push off that responsibility. Well, I can't be responsible for taking this immoral action because I just didn't know. Okay, so that is natural law. And what we're going to be talking about real briefly is the idea of having another take an immoral action that you yourself understands as immoral. So this whole video was started with this thing that you'll hear a typical confused statist say, and that is, this or that action should be illegal. This or that should be illegal. And today I'm going to revolve around this, just this little example of, you know, a person walking on the side of the road, especially when it's dark, wearing all black, like that should be illegal. It should be illegal for a person to walk on the side of the road, because I have a very hard time seeing them and I might hit them and I might kill them. And this is just, I think this will just be an interesting example to work around. So let's really say what you mean when you say this or that thing should be illegal, because you hear people say it all the time. People say this all the time. And what you're really saying is, I want the government to either steal from this person, take money from them by a fine or tax or whatnot. I want them to pick them up, tie them up, throw them in a cage. And if the person doesn't comply with either of those two things, I want them dead. I want them to be killed. That is really what you are saying when you say this or that thing should be illegal. You are promoting violence upon a person. And I understand most people are not thinking about it like that. But that's, again, the whole point of this real quick video on principles. You need to understand your principles. And a great point that Larken Rose makes in his book, The Most Dangerous Superstition, is that if something is immoral for you to do, you cannot go have another group of people do that for you, and then it is all of a sudden magically moral. And that is the entire crux of government. So, for instance, I would assume most people understand that if you passed a walker on the side of the road, you would understand that it would be immoral for you to just pull your car over, steal money from him, tie him up, throw him in the back of your car and go put him in a cage, or murder him if he attempts to flee or defend himself, you know, whatnot. I would hope that you understand that that is immoral and wrong. Which I understand some people don't even in itself. If something inconveniences them, they think they have the right to just violate someone however they wish. But that is immoral for you to do. It is no less immoral for now an agent of government such as a cop or military member to then go do that to that person for you, because you are promoting that, because you think that should be illegal. It doesn't work like that. It is still an immoral action, and you are an immoral person for supporting it. I actually have some notes today, so I think I'm doing a little better job of being on track. I don't want to carry this on too much. I think we're very close in terms of points. All right. So that's what you're really saying when something should be illegal. You're saying, I'm not going to take this immoral action against this human being, but I am in favor of government taking an immoral action against this human being, because I am under the delusion that this magical ritual that is politics can now somehow make an immoral action moral. And that is the core issue with government. It is that government will come rape you and violate you, and then you actually think that it is moral for them to do so. That is what is so devastating about government, because if some typical thug does that to you, you understand that that is an immoral and wrong behavior. But if a agent of the state does that to you, well, it's totally within their right to do, and that's just not reality. That is not how things go. And part of why that gets very confused is that the state really mucks up the natural flow of things. So let's talk about this walker thing, all right? So what somebody would really be saying when they're like, oh, it should be illegal to be walking on the side of the road in the dark, you know, I might hit them and kill them, and if I'm the driver, I will be at fault. Which I agree with. That is where the state really mucks it up, because talk about reality and learning lessons. Well, if that person dresses in all dark, walks on the side of the road and gets hit and killed by a car, I'd say there that they learned the lesson of you should have taken some personal responsibility, put on a reflector vest, pull out your phone flash, do something to try and protect yourself. So that is what a lot of people are really saying in that situation of like, that should be illegal. They understand the person is being negligent in terms of their own personal responsibility. And then the state mucks it up even more by then going and punishing the person who would have hit and killed that person. Now, let's also be real. The person driving the car was probably also not on their A game. We all know how people drive. They drive high, they drive drunk, they drive distracted. And the way I look at these kind of things is also the person learned the lesson because they were hit and killed by the car. And the person driving the car, especially if they were doing something that they know they shouldn't have been, I kind of operate under, at least for me personally, like if I pulled the phone out and then I hit and killed somebody, even if they were dressed in all black on the side of the road, right on the white line, not helping the situation from being avoided, even if that was the case, the stain on your heart from doing that, I feel like that's punishment enough, especially in like an accidental situation we're talking about here. So the person that was hit learned the lesson because they're now either severely injured or dead, crippled, whatnot. And the person driving the car, at least if they're not a complete psychopath, the amount of pain and stain on the heart that would have happened there, especially as I said, if you hit that person when you pulled the phone out. All right, I think I've made my point there. So government really messes with that moral process because it's the same thing as if you are defending yourself. Someone breaks in and is wrecking your property, and then you go and maybe you overreact, like maybe you didn't even intend on killing them, but you do kill them, and all of a sudden, even though you were using force, you were not using violence, you were defending yourself, you were defending your property, you were defending your family, well, now you're being charged with manslaughter. So government comes in and wants to intentionally muck up this natural moral process, which I think would, in the natural real world, play out very, very well if it was left alone. But it's when we have this immoral institution going around, having everyone thinking that it is moral, that is when things get really mucked up. And you see this very, very much so in the typical right-leaning Republican, you got the left-right paradigm, all that bullshit. They're typically people who are promoters of state violence for personal responsibility and morality. See, they understand that there is a lack of morality and personal responsibility in the world, but then they attempt to bring that into the world through taking immoral actions and putting violence upon people, which is completely wrong. So they understand a bit of truth of the world, such as a lacking of personal responsibility and morality, but then they are completely lost when it comes to applying that in the world. And then on the other side, it is the exact same with the socialist communist type, where they understand there is a profound lack of care in the world. They understand that this whole attitude of dog eat dog, and if someone just fuck everyone else, screw them. If they die, they die. This profound lack of care. They understand that is prevalent in the world. But then what do they do to improve that? Do they go out and spread a bunch of care? No, they seek to have an institution that monopolizes violence go around and cause mass suffering on people in the goal of spreading care and love and compassion and equally distributing things. So you can see how much government mucks with people's moral understanding. And again, as I was talking about at the beginning, all of this would be avoided if you actually understood what is a moral action and immoral action, and it can be understood. And when you do understand it, you are ultimately responsible for what you do and don't do, what you support and don't support. And that is I don't know, you can take that as a burden, but you can also take it as profoundly freeing, because when you step off of that checkered floor, when you understand the difference between right and wrong, and you step out of confusion, well, one, you cannot be manipulated. Like, that is the dream of the sorcerer, is to keep you confused, keep you docile, just keep you not having principles. Because when you have principles, at some point you will put the foot down and you will say no. The magical words of no. I will not do this. I will not participate in this. Okay. Pretty sure I got all my points across. Check out the website, freedomforlifeproject.com. And yeah, take care, people. I'll see you on the next one.